You know that burning feeling in your chest when someone's name comes up in conversation? That instant tension that shoots through your body when you think about what they did to you? That's resentment talking. And if you're watching this video, chances are you're tired of carrying that weight around. I'm going to share something with you that might sound crazy at first. What if I told you that the person you're most angry at right now is actually giving you one of the greatest gifts you could ever receive? Stay with me here, because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you see forgiveness forever. Most people think forgiveness is about letting the other person off the hook. They think it's weak. They think it means saying what happened was okay. But that's not forgiveness at all. That's just people-pleasing dressed up in spiritual language. Real forgiveness, it's the most selfish thing you can do. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why choosing to release resentment is the smartest decision you'll ever make for your own happiness. Let's start with something most people don't want to admit. Resentment feels good, really good. It gives us a sense of righteous anger. It makes us feel justified. It creates this story where we're the hero and they're the villain. Our ego loves this narrative because it gets to be right. But here's what nobody tells you about holding on to resentment. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. Every time you replay that hurt in your mind, every time you tell the story to someone new, every time you feed that anger, you're literally poisoning your own system. Your body doesn't know the difference between what happened 5 years ago and what's happening right now. When you think about that betrayal, that rejection, that unfair treatment, your nervous system responds as if it's happening all over again. Your stress hormones spike, your heart rate increases, your muscles tense up. You're essentially choosing to re-traumatize yourself over and over again. And for what? Because you think your anger is somehow punishing them, because you believe that holding on to the hurt proves how wrong they were. I used to think the same way. I carried resentment like a badge of honor. I told myself I was protecting myself by never forgetting what people had done to me. But what I was really doing was building a prison around my own heart. Here's the thing about resentment that most people miss completely. It's not really about the other person at all. It's about you. It's about your unmet needs. It's about your unfulfilled expectations. It's about parts of yourself that got triggered by their actions. Think about it this way. If someone cuts you off in traffic, some people get mildly annoyed and move on. Others get absolutely furious and stay angry for hours. Same situation, totally different responses. The difference isn't what happened. The difference is what that action means to each person. The person who gets mildly annoyed might think, oh well, maybe they're having an emergency. The person who gets furious might think they don't respect me. They think they're more important than me. This always happens to me. See the difference? The first person made it about the situation. The second person made it about themselves, their worth, their patterns. This is why forgiveness is so powerful. It's not about excusing their behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the meaning you attach to their behavior. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what they did was genuinely terrible. They really hurt me. I have every right to be angry. And you're absolutely right. You do have every right to be angry. The question isn't whether you have the right. The question is whether holding on to that anger is serving you. Let me share something that changed everything for me. There's a difference between acknowledging that someone hurt you and choosing to carry that hurt around like luggage everywhere you go. You can say, what you did was wrong and it hurt me, without spending the next 5 years of your life proving that point to yourself over and over again. You can set boundaries. You can choose not to trust them again. You can even choose never to speak to them again. But you can do all of that without poisoning your own well-being in the process. This is where radical forgiveness comes in. Radical forgiveness isn't about them at all. It's about you choosing your own peace over your need to be right. It's about you deciding that your happiness matters more than your hurt. But here's where most people get stuck. They think forgiveness is something you just decide to do one day and then it's done. Like flipping a switch. Okay, I forgive you. Moving on. But that's not how it works. Forgiveness is a process. It's something you might have to choose again and again until it becomes real in your body, not just in your mind. I want to walk you through what this process actually looks like, because once you understand the steps, you can start applying them to any resentment you're carrying, whether it's towards your ex-partner, your parents, your boss, or even yourself. The first step is getting honest about what you're really angry about. Most of the time, we're not angry about what we think we're angry about. We're angry about what that action represented to us. Maybe your partner cheated, and you think you're angry about the cheating, but when you dig deeper, you realize you're really angry about feeling like you weren't enough. You're angry about the story it confirmed about your worth. You're angry about feeling foolish for trusting them. Maybe your parent was critical, and you think you're angry about the criticism. But really, you're angry about never feeling good enough. You're angry about the love you needed but didn't get. You're angry about having to be perfect to earn approval. This is crucial because you can't forgive what you don't fully understand, and you can't heal what you're not willing to feel. So take a moment right now. Think about someone you're holding resentment towards. Now ask yourself, what did their actions mean about me? What story did I make up about myself because of what they did? Maybe you made up that you're not lovable. Maybe you made up that you can't trust anyone. Maybe you made up that you always get taken advantage of. Maybe you made up that you're not smart enough, or strong enough, or worthy enough. This is the real wound. The action was just the trigger. The story you made up about yourself because of their action, that's what's been hurting you all this time. Now, here's something beautiful that happens when you realize this. You start to see that their behavior says everything about them and nothing about you. Someone who cheats has issues with commitment and honesty. Someone who's critical has issues with their own self-worth. Someone who betrays trust has issues with integrity. Their actions are a reflection of their character, their wounds, their limitations, not yours. But here's where it gets even more interesting. When you really understand this, you start to feel compassion for them, not because you're excusing their behavior, but because you realize they acted from their own pain. Hurt people hurt people. It's one of the most reliable patterns in human behavior. The person who betrayed you was probably betrayed by someone else. The person who rejected you probably carries deep rejection wounds themselves. The person who criticized you probably has a vicious inner critic. This doesn't make their behavior okay, but it helps you understand that it wasn't personal, even when it felt incredibly personal. Now, let's talk about what forgiveness actually looks like in practice, because this is where most people get confused. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to trust them again. Trust is earned through consistent actions over time. You can forgive someone and still choose not to give them another opportunity to hurt you. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to have a relationship with them. You can forgive someone and still decide that having them in your life isn't healthy for you. Forgiveness doesn't mean you can't have boundaries. In fact, forgiveness often makes it easier to set clear boundaries because you're not operating from a place of reactive anger. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to forget what happened. You can remember what happened while choosing not to keep reopening that wound. So what does forgiveness actually mean? It means releasing your attachment to the story that their actions define your worth. It means choosing to stop re-traumatizing yourself by replaying the hurt. It means deciding that your peace is more important than your need for them to acknowledge how they wronged you. Here's a practical exercise that can help you start this process. I want you to write a letter to the person you're struggling to forgive. But this isn't a letter you're going to send. This is a letter for you. Start by telling them exactly how their actions affected you. Don't hold back. Express all the anger, all the hurt, all the disappointment. Let it all out on paper. Then write about what their actions meant to you. What story did you make up about yourself? How did it change the way you see yourself or the world? Next, write about what you understand now about why they might have acted the way they did. What pain were they probably carrying? What wounds might have driven their behavior? Finally, write about what you're choosing to release. What story are you ready to let go of? What meaning are you no longer going to give their actions? End the letter with something like this: I choose to release you from my anger. I choose to release myself from the story that your actions define my worth. I choose my peace over my need to be right. Now, here's the important part. You might not feel forgiveness immediately after writing this letter. You might still feel angry. That's completely normal. Forgiveness often starts as a choice before it becomes a feeling. You might need to write this letter multiple times. You might need to choose forgiveness over and over again until it becomes real in your body, not just in your mind. Some of you watching this might be thinking, but what about justice? What about accountability? If I forgive them, doesn't that mean they get away with what they did? This is where we need to separate forgiveness from justice. Forgiveness is about your internal state. Justice is about external consequences. You can forgive someone while still supporting appropriate consequences for their actions. If someone committed a crime against you, you can forgive them and still support them facing legal consequences. If someone violated boundaries in a relationship, you can forgive them and still choose to end the relationship. Forgiveness isn't about letting people off the hook. It's about taking yourself off the hook. It's about refusing to let their actions continue to hurt you long after they've moved on with their lives. Because here's what's really unfair. While you're lying awake at night replaying what they did to you, they're probably sleeping peacefully. While you're telling the story to another friend and getting all worked up again, they're probably not even thinking about you. Your resentment is only hurting one person, you. Now, I want to address something that comes up a lot when we talk about forgiveness. What about forgiving yourself? Because sometimes the person you're most angry at is you. Maybe you made a mistake that hurts someone you love. Maybe you trusted someone you shouldn't have. Maybe you stayed in a situation longer than you should have. Maybe you didn't speak up when you should have. The same principles apply. Your past actions don't define your worth. They were decisions you made based on the information and emotional capacity you had at the time. If you could have done better, you would have. Self-forgiveness starts with understanding that you were doing the best you could with what you had available to you in that moment. This doesn't mean you can't learn from your mistakes or make different choices going forward. It just means you stop punishing yourself for being human. Here's something powerful you can try if you're struggling with self-forgiveness. Think about what you would say to a good friend if they came to you with the same situation. Would you tell them they're terrible and should never forgive themselves? Or would you offer them compassion and understanding? Treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend. You deserve your own compassion, especially when you're trying to grow and heal. Now, let's talk about what happens when you actually start practicing forgiveness regularly. Because the benefits go way beyond just feeling better about specific situations. When you stop carrying resentment, you free up an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy. Think about how much time and energy you spend thinking about people who hurt you. All of that energy becomes available for creating the life you actually want. Your relationships improve because you're not carrying wounds from past relationships into new ones. You're not expecting new people to heal old hurts or prove that not everyone will abandon you. Your self-esteem improves because you stop defining yourself by what other people did to you. You start seeing yourself as someone who can handle whatever life throws at you and come out stronger. Your decision-making improves because you're not operating from a place of fear and protection. You can take healthy risks and trust your judgment. Your physical health improves because you're not constantly flooding your system with stress hormones. Chronic resentment has been linked to everything from heart disease to immune system problems. But perhaps most importantly, you start attracting different people and situations into your life. When you're not vibrating at the frequency of resentment and victimhood, you stop attracting people who will recreate those patterns. This doesn't mean bad things won't happen to you anymore. It means you'll handle them differently. You'll process them more quickly and not let them define your story. I want to share one more tool with you that has been incredibly powerful for me and for people I've worked with. It's called the forgiveness meditation. Find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Bring to mind the person you're working on forgiving. Start by imagining them as a small child. See them innocent and pure, before life hurt them and taught them to hurt others. Send that child love and compassion. Then imagine yourself as a small child. See yourself innocent and pure, deserving of love and protection. Send that child, your inner child, love and compassion too. Now imagine both of you as adults, but surrounded by white light. This light represents the highest part of both of you, the part that is pure love and wisdom. From this place, imagine having a conversation where you both acknowledge the hurt that happened. Imagine them truly understanding how their actions affected you. Imagine yourself truly understanding what pain drove their actions. End by imagining both of you releasing the past and wishing each other well. You don't have to mean it completely. Just be willing to be willing. Practice this meditation regularly and watch how your feelings towards this person begin to shift. Before we wrap up, I want to address one more thing. Some of you might be watching this thinking, this all sounds great in theory, but my situation is different. What they did was unforgivable. I understand. Some actions feel too big, too devastating to forgive. And you know what? You don't have to forgive everything all at once. Start small. Maybe you can't forgive the big betrayal yet, but you can forgive them for being late to dinner that one time. Maybe you can't forgive the abuse yet, but you can forgive yourself for staying longer than you should have. Forgiveness is a muscle. The more you exercise it with small things, the stronger it gets for the big things. And remember, forgiveness doesn't have a timeline. You don't have to forgive on anyone else's schedule. Take as much time as you need. The goal isn't to rush through the process. The goal is to eventually choose your peace over your pain. If you're dealing with trauma or abuse, please consider working with a qualified therapist. Forgiveness can be part of healing, but it shouldn't be used to bypass the important work of processing trauma. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. Resentment is optional. You always have a choice about whether to carry hurt forward or leave it in the past. That choice is your power. The people who hurt you can't take that power away from you unless you give it to them. And holding on to resentment is basically giving them your power and asking them to hold on to it for you. Take your power back. Choose forgiveness, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Choose forgiveness not because what they did was okay, but because carrying the weight of what they did is not okay for you. Your happiness, your peace, your freedom, they're all on the other side of forgiveness. And you have everything you need within you right now to start that journey. If this video resonated with you, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our content on emotional healing and personal growth. And if you know someone who's struggling with resentment, please share this video with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we have the power to choose peace over pain. What's one small act of forgiveness you can practice today? Maybe it's forgiving the driver who cut you off, or forgiving yourself for that mistake you made last week, or forgiving a friend for canceling plans. Start there. Build that forgiveness muscle. Your future self will thank you for choosing healing over holding on. Remember, forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. It's about choosing love over fear, peace over pain, freedom over prison, and that choice is always available to you, no matter what anyone else has done. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore more tools for creating the emotionally free life you deserve.